This is TWiT.
Folks, plans for drone deliveries by Amazon are only part of the story of the logistics machine that is Amazon. Joining us today to talk about some potential next steps for the company is Paris Martineau of The Information. Welcome back to the show, Paris.
Thanks so much, Mikah. How's it going?
It's going well, and I hope it's going well for you as well. Let's talk about this. So Amazon, of course, we chatted before about its drone delivery service and the steps that it had taken to kind of go to the next round of delivery there. But there's some more findings that you've got here about its plans to deliver to rural areas. So one of the things that folks may or may not know is that different delivery companies will deliver to certain areas and then let the Postal Service kind of finish out the process if it's hard to get to those specific doors, those specific places. Amazon, though, is typically, is looking to those companies to do these deliveries. But something that I didn't know, and I'm hoping you can kind of talk to us about this, is Amazon has been for a while working on doing its own deliveries through its contractors. And how much of Amazon's deliveries are made by its own contractors?
Yeah, so this is something I feel like only recently realized over the last couple of months. Amazon, as I'm sure many of your listeners may have seen, now has these Amazon-branded trucks and its own contractors, but this is primarily in major metropolitan and densely populated areas. But that accounts for a large percentage of Amazon's overall deliveries. And so right now, the company is responsible for, as of August, upwards of 67% of its own deliveries Amazon is completing itself, which is a major feat for any company generally. But this year, Amazon has been speeding up its plans to expand the area that it can deliver to. Earlier this summer, when it was building out a bunch of different delivery stations, analysts seem to project that, by 2022, Amazon will be responsible for maybe 85% of all of its orders being delivered, which is huge. But that last 15% was rural deliveries. And that's because, when we're talking about rural areas, these are places, like a farm kind of in the middle of nowhere in Montana or something like that. It's very cost prohibitive for most companies, be it Amazon, UPS, or FedEx, to bring a package out there because, all you're doing is driving out there and then driving back.
Right.
In the cases of even these private companies, they outsource to UPS or USPS. But what my reporting uncovered this week was that Amazon is considering tackling that last 15% through this new program called Wagon Wheel. Yeah.
So when you register to vote in Missouri and you put in your address, Missouri's voter registration form has an extra section in it. At least I shouldn't say Missouri because I don't know if it's every county. So in Buchanan County, Missouri, there's a little section underneath the address where you are meant to put in information about where you actually live. So you can be like, 2 horses past the beehive to the left. I kid. I'm from Missouri, but it is, in the country, out in the country as we call it, you do have to use descriptors like that. 3rd house on the right past the old barnyard. And that is understandable when it comes to these companies that kind of, you fly a plane in with a bunch of iPhones from across the pond and you touch down and then you also drive those delivery trucks out to all of those houses. No, the Postal Service, because it's required by law to do so, is, kind of typically tends to be the last mile of delivery. But Paris, I just wanted to double down on that. I was shocked when I was reading that, 2/3 just about of its deliveries are made by the company itself. Now, one of the things that we look at here is why do Amazon and FedEx and UPS choose to use the USPS to do those last mile deliveries, given that, you know, FedEx and UPS are that is, you know, their job is delivery. And I know I certainly kind of get a little frustrated anytime I see FedEx or UPS use, I think it's like FedEx SurePost and UPS.
Yeah, SurePost kind of bridges that gap in taking it over to companies like USPS.
Yeah, and so Wagon Wheel, I would think that this would be kind of a cost issue, given that, you know, these companies choose to just boot it over to USPS instead. So I'm kind of wondering, what do we think the motivation is here? I know Amazon is not known to be quite the money maker. It tends to kind of float around spending and making back just as much as it's spent. But what's the motivation here if this is not necessarily a cost-effective choice?
Yeah, so rural delivery is notoriously cost prohibitive, but for companies like Amazon and to an extent FedEx and UPS, it has become more apparent over the recent years that there is a demand for rural delivery, and there's possible ways that these companies are piloting to make deliveries in those areas without having to incur the cost of going to every single farm in every single county, no matter how many miles apart. This is the reason why you've seen all these various delivery companies and retailers like Amazon and Walmart testing drone programs, because that could be a way to kind of bridge that gap, quite literally, I guess, with a flying package. But both FedEx and UPS have in recent years and months piloted programs where they use central hubs. FedEx, I believe right now, is working with $1,000 generals, to where if you live in a rural community with one of these Dollar Generals, you could go there and pick up and receive your packages at the Dollar General like it's a little post office. And so obviously Amazon hasn't been the most forthcoming about Project Wagon Wheel. When I reached out to them about the initiative, which I'd also seen in some job listings, they scrubbed the words rural delivery and Wagon Wheel from their site. But from what my sources tell me, it appears that the program, at least at one point, could take was planned to take a similar shape to kind of the FedEx Dollar General model, to where Amazon would have these centrally located hubs in different rural communities where packages could kind of be delivered to and available for pickup, which might make it a bit more financially viable for the company. But I think ultimately, one of the main reasons, regardless of price, that Amazon is probably interested in this is that offering its own delivery to areas means that it can get packages there a lot quicker and control the speed. And that means that people will be more likely to sign up for Prime. And 20% of America is in rural areas. And that's a part of the market that Amazon hasn't yet been able to penetrate with Prime, which when someone's a Prime member, they spend a considerable amount more on Amazon services.
And all of this, at least for me, really seems to point to, yes, I mean, obviously the like standard delivery, broadening out Amazon's kind of standard delivery approach, 4 wheels on the ground. But also, you know, we've kind of touched very briefly on the drone aspects of things. And in order for a drone delivery fleet of Amazons to work, by and large, they also need all of these points scattered around the U.S. or the, you know, the geography of wherever they happen to be delivering. Do you think Wagon Wheel is kind of a part of that, to kind of proliferate more points, more spokes on the wheel, from which to have these drone deliveries actually be accessible to even more people as well, not just 4 wheels on the ground?
I mean, obviously, Amazon hasn't said anything directly either way, sure. But my opinion, it seems very likely. Since I've first heard about the drone delivery program, from what I'd heard from logistics experts and people who work in the shipping industry, it always seemed clear that drones were never going to be flying in New York City, as funny as that would be. For major metropolitan areas, it just doesn't make sense. There's a lot of easier ways to deliver things to people, especially when you have, 40-some people living in one apartment building. But the one place where drones really do work is in these rural areas where you can cross, a large distance without having somebody spend a bunch of gas and time going to each and every house and back. So yeah, I mean, I hadn't thought of it till now, but you just said that. But it certainly makes sense that these hubs in the wagon wheel could be a good launching pad for any future drones once we get to that place.
Sure. Both literally and figuratively.